We've all been there, right? Sitting in a classroom. But have you ever stopped to think about what's really going on? I'm not talking about the lesson on the board. I mean the unseen forces, the hidden psychological stuff that can totally shape a student's entire journey. Today, we're going to pull back that curtain. And believe it or not, it all kicks off with a feeling I'm pretty sure you've had before.
Yeah, that feeling? Come on, you know the one I'm talking about. The feeling that someone's already decided who you are before you even get a chance to show them. And suddenly you're either stuck trying to live up to their expectation or you're fighting tooth and nail to prove them wrong. Well, that exact feeling, that's the heart of everything we're diving into today.
So here's the plan. We're going to look at the real weight of a label, see how these labels can actually become reality, then explore how students deal with it all. Some act out, others suffer in silence. And most importantly, we'll talk about how just being aware of this stuff is the first biggest step to making a change.
All right, let's get into it. First up, the weight of a label. You know, it's kind of wild how simple ideas can have such powerful consequences. And the foundation for all of this? It's a little something we all know called a stereotype.
So what is a stereotype, really? Well, think of it like a mental shortcut. It's basically judging a book by its cover, right? You're slapping a label on someone just because of a group they belong to, their gender, their race, heck, even the team they root for, without ever stopping to see who they are as an individual.
Okay, and this is where it gets really interesting. This leads us to a huge idea called stereotype threat. Now, get this. It's not about you believing the stereotype, not at all. It's the fear, the anxiety that you might accidentally confirm a negative stereotype about your group. It's that little voice in the back of your head screaming, whatever you do, don't mess this up and prove them right. And that pressure? That alone can totally tank your performance.
Let's look at a classic example from the classroom, one we've all probably heard. The idea that guys are just naturally better at math than girls. It's a totally unfounded idea, right? But that one stereotype creates this invisible but massive wall of pressure for female students the second they step into a math class.
And studies show exactly how this works. It's fascinating. So when female students are taking a math test and they're reminded of that stereotype, even in a super subtle way, their scores actually tend to go down. Think about that. They're not just trying to solve for X, they're fighting this extra mental battle at the same time. But, and this is the amazing part, when the researchers just tell the group beforehand, hey, just so you know, this particular test shows no gender differences, guess what happens? Poof! The performance gap vanishes. Male and female students score about the same. The only thing that changed was taking that threat off the table.
Okay, so that's what can happen in a single test. But how does a label go from a one-time threat to, well, a student's actual reality over the long haul? How do these labels become real? Well, it happens through a really powerful and kind of scary psychological loop.
It's called the self-fulfilling prophecy, and it works like this in a three-step cycle. Step 1, an educator holds a false belief about a student. Maybe they think, this kid isn't going to be a star pupil. Step 2, they start treating the student based on that belief. They might give them easier assignments or not call on them as much. And then, step 3, the student's performance, well, it starts to match that lower expectation. And for the teacher, this just proves they were right all along. It's a really vicious, devastating cycle.
And there's another cycle that's just as damaging. It's all about favoritism. This is when teachers, and a lot of the time they don't even realize they're doing it, give preferential treatment to certain kids. The teacher's pets, right? The ones who fit their idea of a good student. And this unequal treatment isn't harmless. It directly affects how students learn, how they engage, and over time, it can create a huge gap between the kids who are favored and the ones who aren't.
So you gotta wonder, right? What happens to a kid who's stuck in one of these negative cycles? All that pressure, that distress, it has to go somewhere. And it usually comes out in one of two ways. Some students act out, they turn that feeling outward. That's called externalizing. Other students shut down, they turn it all inward. That's internalizing. Let's dig into
Okay, first up, acting out. The externalizing problems. This is when a student's inner struggle basically boils over for everyone to see. It's the disruptive stuff.
And what does that look like? Well, it can be anything from delinquency to being really aggressive. It could be constant battles with teachers, stubbornness, defiance. Or it can be more overt, like bullying and fighting. The common thread here is usually a lack of impulse control. The distress inside is just spilling out. And if you think this is just a few bad apples, check this out. 42%. That's how many middle schoolers say they've been bullied. Let that sink in. 42%. This isn't some rare thing. It's a full-blown crisis in our schools.
And bullying takes a lot of forms, right? There's the physical stuff, hitting, punching, kicking, and then there's the verbal stuff, name-calling, threats, even making fun of someone's parents. But what makes it bullying at its core is that it's intentional. It's aggression aimed at a specific victim over and over.
All right, so that's the outward stuff. But now, let's flip the coin. Because for every kid who's acting out, there's another one who's suffering in total silence. This is where we get into the internalizing problems, when all that distress gets turned inward.
A huge one here is depression. And it's so important to understand that depression isn't just being sad. It's a whole body experience. Emotionally, it can look like dejection or low self-esteem. Cognitively, it's that feeling of pessimism, of hopelessness. Motivationally, you just feel blah, apathy, boredom. And it even hits you physically. No appetite, can't sleep, zero energy. It affects everything.
And we have to talk about the most serious outcome of these internalizing problems, which is suicide. It's absolutely critical that we all know the risk factors. Things like being under a ton of stress, maybe from school or figuring out their identity. A family history of suicide is a big one. Other mental health issues, like substance abuse, and a lot of conflict at home. All these things can raise the risk. Recognizing these silent struggles, it's literally a matter of life and death.
Wow. Okay, so with all these heavy, powerful forces swirling around, you might be thinking, what can we possibly do? Where do we even start? Well, it actually starts with something simple, but incredibly powerful. It starts with awareness.
Yeah, this question says it all, doesn't it? What if I am a girl who are good at math? The first step for all of us is to challenge our own unconscious biases, to just pause and ask, wait a minute, what if this stereotype is just wrong? Asking that one simple question can be the antidote. It makes you stop seeing the label and start seeing the actual human being.
Because at the end of the day, it's really this simple. No student should be left behind. Every kid deserves a chance to figure out who they are and what they can do, without being crushed under the weight of some label they never asked for. Seeing these invisible forces, just recognizing they exist, is the first step to breaking those chains. So the only question left is, what bias are you going to challenge today?